Hi guys and girls, so I'm going to show you in around about 20 minutes how to use the Tkinter function, which is how we're going to create a graphical user interface for a Python program. We're going to be making a small glossary which allows you to type in a keyword, press submit, and you will get a response or a definition provided to you. We're going to start off very simply. So what I've done is I've commented out the things that I'm going to make within the program or the areas I need, and I've put a few basic commands in already. So I'm just going to talk you through these. The first one is from Tkinter import star, and this is importing the Tkinter library into my Python program, and it allows me to use commands such as window, label, and so on and so forth. So let's get started. So we've got the import Tkinter library, and then I'm going to call a window because I want a window to appear, and I'm just doing window equals tk. Underneath that I've got window.title, and this is an attribute of the window function or the window command, and it's basically just giving the window a title, and I've called it my computer science glossary. And then right down the bottom I've used window.mainLoop, which will tell the program to run the window. So if I just save this and run this now, what we will get is a small window, and if we I'll stretch it out just so you can see the title, and it says my computer science glossary, so it matches the title here. This is very much like HTML5 or HTML, and like the title tag. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to include a sort of a logo or an image, and to do that I'm going to use the label command. So I'm just going to put this underneath the main, where I've got the main comment here, and it's going to be because it's part of the window, and we're just going to have my photo is the comment, and then I'm going to set a variable called photo1, and I'm going to equal that to a built-in function of Tkinter, which is photo image, and I specify the file location. So I've specified me.gif. Python really works well with GIFs. You may find some strange abnormalities with PNGs and so forth, so I tend to just stick with GIFs. I know they work really well. And then underneath I'm going to call a label, and a label just allows you to put something onto the window, normally text, but if you tie it in with the photo image command or function, it works much better, and you can display an image. So I've telling it to create a label. I've opened my parentheses, and what I want it to do is in the window, I want it to display in the window, so I've told it to use window, and then I'm saying use image, and that's going to equal photo1, so my photo1 variable. And then I'm setting a few things. I want the background to be black, and the reason I want the background to be black is I don't want to have a border around it, and I'm going to change the color of the window in a minute to be black also, because that's just how I want it to look. I could use blue, I could use hex values, but there we go. And we then come on to the .grid operator, and this is how we lay things out in Tkinter, in a Tkinter window. So if you imagine a set of rows, and each row, so it starts at 0, so row 0, row 1, row 2, row 3, and then columns will be broken up into column 0, column 1, column 2, column 3, and I'll put a little diagram on the screen so as you can see that. So I'm telling this this photo image to be on row 0, column 0, and I want it to be sticky east. So that essentially means I want it to be to the right hand side. I could have sticky west. It doesn't really make a difference depending on where you want it. So if you want it to the right hand side or the left hand side, you can use east or west to represent that. So I'll save that and I'll preview that. So that's what I've got so far. And if I just stretch this out, you can see that the background of the window is grey, and I don't want it to be grey, I want it to be black to match. So what I'm going to do is I will put in the command that will make the background black. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that into here, and I'm just going to do window.configure, and I want to configure the background of the window in parentheses, and I'm saying equals black. Now I could do the hex value like I said, but it's a simple color, so I'm just going to keep it black. And if I run that, stretch it out, we should have a fully complete black window, which we do. Fantastic. Let's move on to the next part. And the next part, what I'm going to do is I want to have a label on the screen that says please enter a keyword or enter the word you would like a definition for. So I'm going to put this into my create label section. I'm just going to tidy this up a little bit. Okay, so I'm just telling it to do a label. So create a label, open parentheses, and then put it into the window. And it's going to be text. And then in speech marks, I'm just putting what I want in there. So I want it to say enter the word you would like a definition for. I'm going to use some attributes. So I'm going to use background black. So that will set the label to be black, and it creates like a transparency. So I can show you this with and without, and I'll do that in a second. And the foreground color I'm going to set to white. It is foreground color. FG stands for foreground. It does not stand for font. Okay, so foreground color is white, but that is the font color, in other words. I can specify the font I want to use, so I could have Arial or whatever. I'm just going to say none, and that will use the default font. I'm specifying size 12, and I want it to be bold. And again, I'm simply using a grid, the dot grid operator, to tell it which row. So I want it to be in row 1, and I want it to be in column 0, sticky west. So as you can see here, this was column 0, so column 1. So I'm keeping everything quite in line, so everything following on from each other, sequential. And it's just the way I like to do layouts. You can mess about. You don't have to do. You can do the grid layout in a different way, and I might show you that a bit later on. So if we save this, and I will preview the window for you. So we can see now that I've got my image in there, and then I've got enter the word you would like a definition for. And I'll show you what happens if we change this and we take out this, where's it gone? Background black. If I take this out and just let's have a look. Oh, just need to get rid of this. Take that out, save that, and F5, and we can see here that we've now got obviously the grey box background, and we don't want that, which is why we use the background black, just to keep it sort of transparent. It's just the theme I'm going for. I'm going for quite a dark theme for this program, and there we go. Next thing we want is a text box to be able to type the word into, and this is done slightly differently, and I'll explain why. So what we got is we're creating, we're saying enter. We're going to say call it text entry, and we're going to say equals entry. So we want an entry box. And we want it to display in the window. We want the width to be 20, the background to be white. Now, what I've then done is I've done a return, and I've put the text entry.grid row 2 column 0 sticky west underneath that. If I had it on the same line like I have with my label, because I'm using a variable and I'm actually telling it to do an entry box and store that in the text entry variable, if I had it like this, what would happen is it would mess up, and essentially you might not get it writing the contents of the text box into the variable. So it's just a bit clunky like that. So keep it on a new line for best practice. And again, I will just save that and preview it, and that's what we've got, a little text entry box there that we can type in. Now, it's not going to do anything yet because we need a submit button. So we're going to go ahead and put a submit button in here, and you should start to see a very common sort of style going on. So with regards to we want a button, we want it to appear in the window, we want it to have text, and that text is going to be called submit. The width is 6. The reason I've used a width of 6 is quite simple, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 letters in submit. I want it to be the width of the text, and then what we've got is command equals click. Now what this is doing is it's calling a function. Now normally when you call a function in Python you would do the parentheses at the end like that. You don't do that with this part of sort of how Tkinter works. So what you want to do is just say command click, and then what we'll do is we will, in our key down function, we will create the function that will be called when this button is pressed, the click. So I'll do that now, because if I don't do that now, the program will crash out because it will be looking for the command click, which doesn't exist. So if I save it and I run it, F5, we can see on my sort of debug window that I've got here name click is not defined, and that's purely because it doesn't exist yet. So we will do that now. We'll code the click function. Now the click function is going to be designed in two parts or two stages, because there's some other stuff we've got to do before we finish it off. So the first part is to define a function called click, so def click open parentheses, and then we're going to say entered text equals, so a variable called entered text equals text entry dot get, and remembering that our text entry is our text box down here, so we're saying text entry here equals the entry window, and we're using a .get operator, so we're getting the contents of the text box, and we're storing it in the variable called entered text. So now if we save and we run, what we get is that, and there we go. And as you can see, we've now got the text box and the submit button. The next part is to add another label, and we're going to do this exactly the same way we did the first label, and I'm going to put it into create another label section, and label display in the window text equals, and I've put a little line break in there, and then I'm having definition, background black again, foreground color white, font name none, 12 bold, so exactly the same as above. Grid position will be 4, so you can see we've got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's that. So if I save that and run it, there we go, we can now see we've got a definition, and we have got a little break in there. It's a nice little line break. Okay, so we're now going to put our text box, or I'd call it more an output box, so we want to output text into this box. So let's do that. Okay, so we've got output equals text, so we're creating a variable called output, and we're saying it equals text. We want it to be text box in the window. We want the width to be 75, height to be 6, and I'm using something called wrap equals word to wrap the text if it sort of overflows, and the background white, and then I'm doing, again, bringing it down onto the next line to do the layout, and I'm saying output dot grid operator is going to be row 5 and column 0 with a col span of 2 and sticky west. So save and run, and there we go, there's our enter and our submit box. Okay, and we're nearly done, almost there. We need to create our dictionary. Okay, so our dictionary is just a simple dictionary. I've called it my comp dictionary, and we're equaling it, and it's going to be the key is going to the dictionary keys are going to be the keywords, so algorithm and bug is what I've put in there so far, and just a little definition. And you can see that I've put the definitions into single sort of speech marks or quotation marks. I haven't used double because what I might want to do at some point is put a little quote inside of these, and if I've used the single ones I can. If I'd used the double ones I couldn't. I'd have to break out, and it just makes it a little bit more easier for coding, a little bit easier to add stuff to the dictionary. So now we've got this, we are going to sort of finish off the program and get it working just by finishing off our click function. So we need to add some bits to the click function. So the first thing I'm going to do is going to make sure the text box is clear, and I do that using output. So we're specifying the output box and using the dot delete, and then we're saying 0.0. Now the 0.0 is saying that we want to do everything before the first line and before the first character, and then right through to the end of anything that's in that box. So that will completely clear the box. Okay. What we're then going to do is use some the try and accept. So we're going to say try and do this, and if it can, that's fine. Otherwise, we need to do this. So it's like a validation, almost like an if-else type thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to say the definition equals my comp dictionary entered text. So it's going to look into the dictionary and say, sort of do a little check and see if the word's in there. If the enter text is in the my comp dictionary, then it will assign it to the variable definition. And if it's not, except it's going to do definition equals, sorry, there is no word like that in the dictionary, please try again. And then all we're doing is we're going to output dot insert. So in the output box, we're going to insert at the end or start of the box the definition, so we're going to put the variable in there. So we should now have a working program, so let's give it a go and see. So I know that bug's one of my keywords, so I can do bug and submit, and there we go, definition, piece of code that causes a program to fail. And we could also look for dog, which I know isn't in there. And there we go, sorry, there is no word like that, please try again. And to finish off our program, we're going to put another label and another button, and we're just going to have a little exit button at the bottom. So to do that, we're going to come right down to the bottom, we're going to do a few line returns, and we're going to put in a new label. So hopefully you know how to do this now. So I'm just going to copy my previous label. There we go. And we're going to change it slightly. So it's a label, we want it to appear in the window, that's fine. We want it to be text, and I'm going to make the text say, just going to have it say, click to exit. Okay, and then background black, everything the same. We're going to make sure the grid row is the right row, so we want 4, 5, so this will be 6. There we go. And then underneath that we are going to have a button, another button, and this is going to be our exit. Okay, so we'll do an exit button, and again, button, window, text, exit. So we want a button in the window, we want the text to be called exit, the width to be 14, and the command will be close window. So we'll have a function called close window, and this will be grid row 7. So, and we'll have it west, not east. There we go. Play about with west and east and see what it does. There we go. And before I run to test this, I'm going to make sure that we've got a little function that will close the window. And to do that, I'm just going to put it here, and I can call it exit function. There we go, and we're going to just have def close window, and it's going to be window.destroy, which will destroy the window and exit the program. You could just exit the program, but I like to just close things that I've got open, just an old habit from HTML coding. So yeah, so I can now save and run this, and let's see what happens. Okay, and I have got a slight error, the button's not displaying, and the reason for that is I've simply defined my function after I've called the exit button. So we'll just switch those around. There we go, so we've got our exit function, and now it should, there we go. So we've got everything I want on there. So we've got the submit button, so we can do bug and submit, and it gives us a definition. And we can click to exit. So if I was to click that now, it would exit the program. So let's test it, and it works. So there are many ways you could expand this. You could put a save button on there, and you could export it to a file, so you could have a save to file option. You could replace this text box with, for instance, a list of keywords, and you click the keyword and it gives you the definition. You could have a randomize button using import random and just randomize a random keyword for revision. So if you click randomize, it will give you a random keyword and definition. It's lots to do. I hope this has been helpful. I know some people feel quite daunted by Tkinter and getting it to work. There is another way of doing layout with the .place option, which allows you to be more specific. So you can use the X and Y axis and pixels to dictate where you want things very, very specifically. And I'll try and do another tutorial on that for you soon. Please hit the like button, subscribe, it really helps me out. And if you've got any requests for tutorials, if you want me to do any videos, do drop me a line on Twitter. Thanks a lot for watching.